lot of times I tend to feel like I lack discipline when I don't have to go to work or something like that. I'll wind up sleeping in, I get up late, just kind of feel like I lack structure in my life. And it's not like that if I have some kind of a commitment. If I gave somebody my word I was gonna get up in the morning and go have breakfast, or if I had to go to work or something like that, then I'm just gonna jump out of bed and go do my thing. But if it's a day off or something like that, it's really, really easy for me to just sleep in and kind of lounge around and accomplish basically nothing, and just feel like all in all I'm kind of not very productive. And I've thought about this, and the interesting thing is, you know, if you get up later and you stay up later into the night or something, you know, does that really make a difference? I don't know that it necessarily does. I think there's a lot of people that swear by getting up early and things like that, but then those same people, they're probably going to be calling it a day pretty early in the day. And I think it's a little bit deceptive to go too far down the path of saying you have to be super productive, and if you aren't, then you're missing out on something. I think it's important to be mindful. That's really what it comes down to. So for me, in my case, like, I don't know that I would necessarily be so worried about, you know, did I sleep in or something like that, but more like, you know, am I doing activities during my waking hours that are on my bucket list of things I want to do? You know, it's like social media. Social media is not a bad thing. It can be a good way to connect, but if you're looking at social media all day, every day, constantly as sort of a non-stop boredom killer, and then you're wondering, well, why am I not, you know, watching these movies I wanted to watch, or catching up on some game I wanted to catch up on, or working on that writing project, or reading that book, or whatever it is. And the reason is because, you know, I'm spending hours and hours scrolling on Google News and Facebook and YouTube. Well, that's where it's important, I think, to set some boundaries and say, okay, I'm going to be mindful in the way I spend my day. And I think that's a lot more important than saying, okay, I'm going to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Well, that's fine. You can get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and waste your day as well. And what even constitutes waste in a day? Is it not being productive enough? And I don't think so. I think it's not being mindful enough. It's not being able to say, these are the things that I wanted to do today. These are the things that I actually did. And it's okay to have a plan and then diverge from the plan and say, okay, let's change the plan. I think I want to do something different instead. That spontaneity can be a really nice experience in life, absolutely. But what you don't want is that sense that your whole life kind of just falls into a abyss, a black hole of lost time, and when you look back on it, you don't even really know what you did. It's a lot better to make sure that you're conscious of what you're doing, and that seems like it'd be easier said than done, but it really is often quite difficult to do that because we just go on autopilot. You know, you get out of bed, you get in the car, you go to work, and most of that is all just kind of something you do. It's not something that you think about doing. And then there's other aspects of our life that are basically the same way. We're not really thinking about it. We're just we're just doing that same routine, and then time goes by and we think, man, what did I even do with my time? So I also find it's sometimes useful to split things into smaller, more bite-sized segments. Like, for example, if I said I'm gonna play this game for an hour, I might wind up having a better time than if I sat there and kind of just hung around playing the game for 4 hours, but I wasn't really particularly mindful of what I was doing. I was just kind of in the game, sitting there, maybe doing something else on the second screen, etc. Just to really kind of say, okay, I'm going to sit down. Like, I find it's nice to sit down and read a book sometimes. And since it is hard for me to find that discipline, when I do, I'll sit down and I'll say, okay, I'm going to read a chapter or two. I'm just going to sit down, no distractions, no phone, none of that. And I'm going to read a chapter out of this book. And it's not that much time that I spent doing it, really. But it's more meaningful, it's more memorable. And then I think about, maybe as another example, listening to audiobooks. I like audiobooks, and for a lot of the long reads that I probably am not going to get around to, audiobooks are a great way to be able to consume some literature without having to sit down and read a 1,000-page novel. But I also find I don't get as much out of them because it's so easy to turn them on, and then you're doing something and you're not listening really, and you're not paying attention, and the words are just being read to you, and it drones on, and after a while you kind of forget what you were even listening to. And I can't help but thinking it's not the same as sitting down a little at a time, consciously, mindfully reading a chapter at a time in a real paper book. Just because with the audiobook, as great as it is, it's a lot easier to kind of tune it out while you're doing other things. All in all, I guess it's an interesting balance, trying to find a way to reconcile life so you're not always feeling like you're not doing enough. Because if you're always obsessed with needing to do more and everything's a progression track, it always just seems like, I have to figure out how to min-max my day so that I'm getting use out of every minute of it. You're not going to have a good experience that way. But then also to kind of have a little bit of a bucket list of things that you are going to do, things you want to do, and then actually keep your word and fulfill those things and do those things. And it feels so much better if you can get through a day and you can say, here's a dozen things. Maybe they're little things, but they're still measurable. They're still things I can say I did. And, I think that's a good investment then in your mental health, spiritual health, all of the above. And it's okay to deviate. Like I don't know that sleeping in is a terrible thing necessarily. Like sometimes maybe that's just fine. Maybe that's even a good thing. But being mindful too of how you spend your time so that you know that you are the master of your time, that you gave consent to the way you spent your day. I think that's really important. And that's something that I'm trying to work on too, just because it is so easy to just go on autopilot, and then you wind up thinking, I just wish that I would have maybe been a little bit more true to myself and done the things that I actually said I wanted to do. And what are those things? Well, maybe it's read a chapter out of a book every day. Maybe it's go for a walk every day or meet a certain exercise goal. Maybe it's play a certain game or finish a quest in your favorite RPG. Maybe it's spend a little bit of time writing in a journal. Maybe it's, well, any number of little things. Things that you can say, you know, I did that. I did that. And, you know, you don't want to wait forever to do the things that you have been saying you want to do. Just something to think about. It could be that video game that you wanted to finish. You wanted to play it. You never got around to it. And when are you gonna get around to it, you know? Like, life is pretty short in a sense, you know? It's long enough to have plenty of time in it, and it's also too short to waste. And to me, I think maybe that waste is saying, well, one of these days I'll get around to writing that book. One of these days I'll get around to that cool game. And then what about when you're at the end of your life and you realize you never even did these kind of basic, simple things that you said you wanted to do, right? You want to do them. And it's not like it's that big of a deal. It's just, there's never a time in your life when now seemed like the time to do it. And then after a while, years go by and decades go by, and you think, I should have just, you know, taken one of those Saturdays and just done the things that I actually said I wanted to do for my whole life. And I was talking about this yesterday in my last video, and I think giving up some things is also an important thing too, because it's not about having extreme efficiency sometimes in your life. It's more about having enough time, enough space that's not delegated or tasked out to be able to add in things that you want to add in. Like if you're working a really demanding job and you're always on the move, you're always doing something, you're never slowing down or stopping, and every minute of every day is spent trying to make money, trying to chase some business objective, trying to be in control of something, then you're never going to have time to pursue your hobbies or to work on yourself, or to just pause and say, okay, you know, what do I think about life and what do I want to do with my time? Because you don't really have anything to actually, you know, you don't have anything free to choose from. Like you're spent. And I think that is also something that we tend to go wrong with in our lives. We think, well, all right, you know, let me be super efficient with my time to try to get some time back. Well, and really, we shouldn't be doing that as much as just saying, okay, I'm gonna do things I actually enjoy with my life, and I'm not gonna worry about being super efficient. I'm just gonna make sure I'm doing things I want to be doing and not wasting time on things that don't bring joy into my life. And then you wind up with plenty of time to do a lot of things that maybe otherwise you would not feel like you have time for. You find you have time for your family, you have time for your usual vocations, you have time for your hobbies, you have time to think about yourself and to contemplate life, all of the above. And so if we could just win at those two things, mindfulness to be conscious about what we're doing, and I guess excluding a few of the things that wind up just not bearing fruit in our lives so that we have time to add in more of the things that do, then a little bit of lost efficiency is not the end of the world. Like, it's all right. You can sleep in on your day off without feeling guilty that you have wasted a part of your life. You can go on a vacation, you can go on a road trip and just take that detour. Go see that place that you didn't plan to see for no reason at all, other than the fact that you wanted to explore. You're not losing anything. Maybe you're even enriching your life. But don't be always signing up for things that don't add value or joy into your life. and then also being on autopilot and never actually stepping away from those things. Don't let your life be consumed by things that you don't actually enjoy. And the crazy thing is, it really is different for every person. Like one person can be, it can be a great thing for a person to do that, because that's something that brings joy into their life. And then for someone else, it is the same thing, but it's not right for them. So there isn't really a one size fits all. It's all about just kind of listening to your own inner voice and saying, okay, what seems like something that's going to add value to my life. And you know it when you see it. Just think about all the positive, fun experiences you've had in your life, all the things that kind of transported you, took you to another place, made you excited about life. Did you have to have someone come and tell you that those things were positive experiences? And the answer is no. We know it. When we're having a good experience, when life is amazing, when something wonderful happens, we know it. We can feel it, and no one has to tell us. It's self-evident. We know it. And by the same measure, those things that are maybe bad habits in our life, or they're things that are making us feel worse about our lives and not better, well, those things also, we can feel that too. And it's just about stopping and listening. And you can't do that unless you're paying attention. Just like driving down the road. You could be driving down the road, having an amazing time on a road trip, exploring new roads, or you could be on the same road, driving to work, not even thinking about what you're doing, just taking the same route you always take, and there's nothing special at all about it. Same car, same road, maybe even, but one is mindful and the other is mindless. And we want to have more experiences in our lives that are mindful, more experiences in our lives that are things that we have given consent to, things that we have chosen to opt into, things that we really wanted to do, and then we actually went out there and did them. And even if they're small things, it's still good to add as many of those things into your day as you can, so that when you get down to the end of the day, you don't feel like it was all for nothing. You feel like you did some things that, at least to you, added value and meaning to your day. Good luck with your day, and as always, thank you for watching.